Hello, listeners. Welcome to Miss Ebony Thomas to our interview.
Hi.
Today
Ebony
we are going
Thomas,
to be
eighth grade
talking
English.
about Black History Month and what it's like being a Black teacher, and then lastly, ask you a little bit about equity versus equality.
So I guess we'll start because it's Black History Month. What does that mean to you?
Well, Black History Month represents everything that I am. So often, like I've told y'all this year, we get caught up in the past and historical events that surround Black history. And that's a wonderful thing. But if anything, it propels me to be the best version of me that I can be. So in essence, I am Black history. That's pretty much what it means to me. I'm making history right now.
I like how you said that.
Yeah. Our next question is, what does Black History Month mean to you?
As an American versus as a Black person.
Yeah.
Or I guess if there's a difference.
So it's not that there isn't a difference. I've just never been able to wear the solid title of American. That's not what's delivered to people that are Black in America. There's always a hyphen. As it concerns me being an American versus just being a Black person, for me, I've always just been African American. If I think about nationalism, I would think about the fact that my father and my siblings are all military. I have a tendency of seeing Black history in motion, with my brother being very high up in the military. My sister, at one point in time, she was in the military. My other brother, at one point in time, was military. They served our country. So I look at them as individuals that are, again, making Black history in its current, if that answers your question.
Yes. So now we'll just move on to kind of the more teacher specific questions. So first we'll start out with some general questions. What subject do you teach, just for the viewers to know?
I teach English language arts, aka just English, eighth grade.
Before you became a teacher, what inspired you, and then, or maybe where'd you go to college or university? Any background information?
I'm going to throw this out there. I had no intentions of going into education. I'm an avid reader. I read constantly. I think the only person that has beat my reading score at this point in time is Adalia. I think I'm only at 19 books for the year, and I think Adalia might be at 25, maybe 30. So as much as I love reading, I also enjoyed a lot writing. And I think I'm a pretty good writer. I've sent some of my short stories to the kids, and they pretty much enjoyed them. So my goal was to go to college and then become an author. And when I got there, they were like, yeah, you need a backup plan. And I was like, what? I'm going to be the best writer ever. And it was like, just in case you're not, you need a backup plan. Miss Wingfield said, hey, try education. And I was like, okay, that'll be my backup plan. And come to find out, I was good at it. And I went to Fayetteville State University, HBCU love, historically Black college and/or university, oldest one in the state. I did my student teaching. I started teaching, and I wasn't just good at it. People loved me. And I was like, it's the award-winning smile. I was like, I'm really not that great of a teacher. It's my smile. And come to find out, I'm a pretty good teacher. And I just stuck with it. I still write. I still write on the side, but I think I'm just a pretty good teacher, so I stuck with it.
Wow, great. I would love to read
I love that story.
Short stories one of these days. Next, we'll move on to, go back to the teaching thing. So what is your goal as a teacher?
So when you graduate college, when I graduated in 2008, the first time, oh Lord, y'all, 2008, man, y'all might've been two. When I initially graduated college, you had to write a statement of purpose when you're leaving the education program, and they asked you what you were going to do to ensure students learn. And I love sports at that point in time, and I love everything Nike at that point in time. And so my statement of purpose was just do it. And I wrote this long paper, and they were like, oh my God, this was so good. And I was like, yo, it was super simple to me. It wasn't something that was a serious challenge. You do everything in your power legally to make sure that you put your students in a position to be the best people they can be. And sometimes that's not just academically. Sometimes that's socially and emotionally. Sometimes it's like, hey, like one of our students who's a great cook, we're going to do cooking with him at a team time. I want to put all my students in a position to say, hey, this is my goal. Let me push you past that goal. So my ultimate goal as a teacher is just to encourage people, to encourage my students. And if I can do that with making them read. If I can do that with helping them write, if I can do that with them clarifying themselves and their written expression, I'm all for it.
So I guess on the other side of the spectrum, like you're obviously a big role model for your students, but who's like a role model for you, or how have they shaped who you become?
So I have this thing where I look up to people that I've never met, but I don't keep people in my circle if I can't look up to them in any way. So of course, all my friends are doing great things, and majority of them are African American. But for the most part, and she probably doesn't know this, I look up to my baby sister. She is my shero. So often as the older sibling, you have a tendency of clearing the way and protecting your baby sister and your younger siblings. But my baby sister said, hey, I'm going to the military. She went. And she did that while being a single parent. And then she went back to school while in the military and pregnant. And right now she's working on her master's degree. And granted, she's no longer a single parent, but she has raised her children. She has advanced her career. She's advanced her degrees. And I look up to her sheer willpower. In my brain, it's like, if she can do it, there's no reason why I shouldn't be doing it. And if she's doing that, there's no reason why I shouldn't be encouraging her to keep being the best version of her.
That's great.
That's really
wow.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adalia told me that you're the first Black teacher in 8th grade at your school. Is that correct?
So I have no doubt there may have been other African American teachers there, but when I first got there, it was just me for a couple years. Then we did have Miss Taylor, and then we had another young man that was there, and they stayed on 8th grade, I want to say like a year and a half. But my 6 years at Daniel's, now Oberlin, I've pretty much been the only Black teacher in 8th grade.
Wow. So how does that feel, or how did it feel?
I want to make sure I'm politically correct. So in class, I tell the students constantly that representation matters. Our school has a demographic that is people of color, not just Black students. And when students get to 8th grade, they see me. And a lot of these students want to be on our team because there's comfort with seeing someone that looks like you. And I kind of put a cape on and make sure that, hey, I'm here for you guys. But at the same time, as much as I love everyone on my team, as much as I love all of the people that I've worked with over the years, it gets kind of tiring because I kind of feel like I'm holding a lot of responsibility to make sure that I can represent myself well, but to also be there for all these students that look like me and students that don't look like me. And you kind of don't want to run the risk of having my statements be the statements that speak for all the Black teachers at our school.
Okay.
Because I mean, everyone is different. So I may feel a certain way about something, but Miss DeBerry or Miss Taylor or Miss Stevenson, who was with us at one point in time, or Miss McKinney, they may feel a certain way. But when you're that only representative on your grade level, it's like, well, if she said it, they're going to feel the same way. And that's just not the way it works. All people are different. So it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of weight. But at the same time, I'm kind of blessed, I feel, to have that responsibility because I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure kids know I'm there for them.
You sort of answered this, but like, do you think there's not a lot of diversity, right? So do you think that is ever like a problem or a challenge for anyone?
I think first, you got to ask yourself what type of diversity you're looking for. Like, are you looking at racial diversity? Are you looking at gender diversity? Like LGBTQ rights? What kind of diversity you're looking for? Do I think it's a problem for people? Unfortunately, sometimes the things that happen socially out in the world kind of infiltrate a school. So do I think it's a problem for teachers at our school? No. Do I feel like there are certain microaggressions that happen in the community that infiltrate our school on occasion? Yes, I do. But
Mhm.
I've been Black my whole life, so it's
Yeah.
these microaggressions that I see that infiltrate the school are the same ones I've been dealing with my entire life. You just take it in stride. Do I think it happens a lot at the school? No, not not like it would if we were in a very, 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 very rural area. And that's
Okay.
really just speaking generally. But I think people are far more open-minded now. And I think people are more willing to learn and listen now rather than jump the gun. But
Mhm.
do I think it caused a problem? Not necessarily. Do I think certain people are uncomfortable because of their lack of knowledge about other cultures and other races? Yes.
Thank you. That was a great answer. So before we move on to our last section about equity versus equality, do you have any advice that you would give to any teachers that may be starting out like you, or maybe the first, like maybe bringing diversity to their schools, any things like that?
So I have a student teacher now. I had a student teacher last year. I think I've given them both the exact same advice. And my student teacher last year was a very small young lady, and she was white and I was Black. And my student teacher this year, she's actually pretty short too. I didn't realize I was kind of tall. I thought I was regular. But she's Black. And the advice that I've given to both of them in the face of adversity, being a teacher, or diversifying not I said apartment, diversifying a school, is learn all you can before you make adjustments, because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, you don't want to be disrespectful, but you also want to be well read in situations that could cause a conflict. So observe the situation, do as much research as you can before you move forward into actually actively diversifying. Now, if you're like the only Black teacher in 8th grade, actively diversifying, you want to do it too much, because just being there. But that active diversification? Is that a word? I don't know. Actively diversifying, making changes at your school, make sure that you've done the research first. And do not just move according to your emotions. Think things out before you do that.
I like that. So I don't want to move on to something else because it's such a nice kind of way of thinking. But I guess you're like the equity counselor leader at the school. So do you want to talk about that a little bit before we transition to the next part?
So at Oberlin Magnet Middle School, we are blessed enough to have an administration, and honestly, with Wake County, who has an Office of Equity Affairs, we are blessed enough to be in a situation where our county and our school noticed that there was a need. So often people say, I just need to put a committee here because we're supposed to have one. At our school and in Wake County, we don't just have a committee. It was like, hey, we're faltering here and we need this. So there was a notice of a need. So I was voluntold, and I say voluntold because I was not too interested in equity. But Ms. Levers, who, bless her, because she blessed me, voluntold me a couple years ago that I was going to be equity chair. And she was like, you have such great leadership capabilities. And I tell students all the time, I don't know why people listen to me. It's because I'm charming. And so really started doing research and started diving into it. And I was enlightened to the difference in equity versus equality. And I was like, wow, we're pushing equality, but we are not being equitable. So as equity chair at the school, because there's a team of teachers that does this. After we teach, after we grade, there's a team of us that sit down and say, hey, let's look at what's going on. Let's look at some data, because a lot of it is data-driven instruction. And we say, hey, let's look at this. We need a need here. And so with doing that, what we do is we look at test scores. We look at the SIP plan, which is the School Improvement Team Plan, which is called the SIP, actually, School Improvement Plan. And we look at suspension data We look at information from school lunch. We look at lots of areas and demographics, and we start to make adjustments with staff, because honestly, you have to make an adjustment with yourself before you can go into a situation and make it far more malleable. And again, and I keep using the word blessing because it is just a great blessing that we have an administration and we have a school that is willing to be malleable. You know, they're willing to transform and change and so forth like that. And so we're all doing the research right now as a school, and as equity chair, hopefully I'm pushing people to say, hey, think about this differently, research this. What can you change, or what knowledge can you get about yourself that can help you work with students or parents, or just build a better community at Oberlin Magnet Middle School.
That's great that you have that team.
Definitely not just me.
Yeah.
So now we'll move on to our last question. What's the difference between equity versus equality?
So equality is more so, and feel free to look this up, because the way I see it, you could like get something else from it.
Mm-hmm.
But equality is pretty much putting everybody on level playing field.
Oh, okay.
That's everybody's here. Equity is not necessarily saying put everybody on level playing field. So if I had equality and I needed everybody to stand on the line, this is the line everybody would stand on.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have equity, and I have someone that's 5'2", and I have someone that's 5'7", and I have someone that is 6 feet tall, and I need all of them to look over a fence, but the fence is 6 feet tall, there are a couple people that are not going to be able to look over that fence. So with equity, we're offering opportunity. We'll give different size boxes for people to stand on. So everybody's not on a level playing field. We know that everyone's different. But if you need a box that's 2 feet to look over, and you need a box that's 3 feet to look over, and you need a box that's 4 feet to look over, we'll provide that. And we're going to give you opportunity, and we're going to meet you where the need is. We're not just going to say, okay, I gave him $150. I gave him $150. I gave him $150. Why isn't this person and this person making money? Well, for all I know, person one and person two, unfortunately, may live in poverty. And this other person who already has millions. So if I gave this other person $150, it's not going to make a difference to him. He can do whatever he wants with it. Versus these two individuals, they're going to have to go buy food and clothes. So when we look at equity in schools, we're saying, hey, again, where is the need? This person needs this from us. This person needs this from us. This person needs this from us. And how can we provide the best opportunity for each student? Not just equal opportunity, but the best opportunity for each student to meet them where they need it.
That was another great answer. And thanks for the visual with the pen too. That was
Yes.
I'm a teacher.
I guess, do you have anything else you want to tell listeners or students or anyone listening about Black history, you teaching equity versus equality?
First, Black History Month is a great month out the year, but I think it's very important for all people, not just people of color, but for all people 365 days out the year to invest in another culture at some point in time. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to keep running the risk of not having the knowledge base about other cultures around you, because it's just a beautiful thing to get to know people, get to know what they go through, get to know what they're fond of. So as much as I want to say, hey, Black History Month, definitely learn all the Black history that you can, which I do believe you should. I think everyone should invest in learning about a different culture. I just like learning about people. So I look a lot of stuff up, and I know a lot of people don't read as many books as me or Adalia or even as you, but it's really important to get to know people around you. As it concerns equity versus equity versus equality. One of the biggest things that I've learned about equity over the last couple of years is a term, colorblind. And you probably already heard about it. People have a tendency of saying because they're colorblind, they believe that they're equal. And they're offering equal thoughts and prayers and all these things towards people, equal opportunity. And that's honestly not what's happening. It is very important that we move away from being colorblind and really invest in the differences of each other. I don't want anyone to not see my Blackness. I want you to notice this. I want you to understand it. I want you to acknowledge how my Blackness makes me culturally different in America. I want you to understand why I have a hyphen, why I'm African American. I want you to understand that. And once we start moving away from terms like colorblindness or something like that, once we start moving away from terms like that and we see people as individuals, we'll move away from equality, which isn't a horrible thing, and we'll start moving towards equity. So if I can give anybody any advice, it's, hey, look at people for who they are, notice their differences, and take the time to invest in getting to know that.
That's a very powerful statement and answer.
Yes.
See your Blackness.
Yes.
So lastly, to conclude, do you have any good book recommendations for the listeners if anyone's interested?
You should have told me. I would have brought all my books. Okay. Anything by Cassandra Clare, period. She's like my favorite author of all time. Anything by Cassandra Clare. The Mortal Instrument series, I have all of them. The Book of White just came out. She has Shadowhunter Market. Anything by Cassandra Clare. I met her once at Meredith College. She's amazing. She gave me a lot of books and stuff to give to the students, but I kept them. Legendborn, and I can't think of the author right now. Legendborn is really, really great. I can't think of the author of this one either. Brittany, Dread Nation, book 1 and 2. It is this cool, sciencey. It's science fiction. It's a nice spin on slavery and zombies. And it speaks to racial inequalities and cultural differences, but with zombies. It's such a good series. What's another book I'm reading right now? I said Legendborn. I said all the Dread Nation books. I said Cassandra Clare. I'm reading something else, and it just left me. I mean, now if you want to do some equity versus equality research, and you really want to dive into a socialized world, it's not fictional, it's nonfiction. Our staff and some of the parents are reading a book called White Fragility. I'm reading that, and I read Why Do All the Black Kids Sit Together in the Cafeteria? And I don't know if kids want to read it, but maybe parents would. They're really good.
That's great. Hopefully some of our listeners will take a look at those books.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting us interview. We really enjoyed this.
We'll see our listeners later.
Bye.
Bye.